if we study thoroughly and read different sort of what's the commentary, commentaries, and examine by yourself. It is really convincing. Firstly, Mahayana teaching is authentic Buddhist teaching. Without Mahayana or Sanskrit traditions, I think Four Noble Truths, difficult to get deeper understanding about Four Noble Truths. First two truths, okay. The third truth, the truth of cessation, unless you get deeper understanding about the Shunyata theory, very difficult to get sort of what's the convincing sort of understanding about third noble truth. Then as well as fourth noble truth, the true path to achieve the cessation of these destructive emotions. So, like the Dharmakirti's text, mainly is the logic, Buddhist logic, the 4 chapters. The second chapter, the explaining about the Four Noble Truths through reasoning, not through quotation of Buddha's word, but through reasoning. So, without Sanskrit tradition, explanation available in Sanskrit tradition, without that, difficult to something like, I think, I don't know. Difficult to develop conviction about the possibility of cessation of suffering. So therefore, Pali tradition is the basis of Buddha Dharma. Then second Dharma wheel, like Panchaparamita Sutra, is the further explanation about later two truths. The truth of cessation, truth of path. These two truths out of Four Noble Truths. I think without Panchaparamita Sutra sort of explanation about ultimate reality, which is Shunyata. And Nagarjuna, really great sort of master about Shunyata. So his explanation is really, really convincing. So after reading or study his sort of explanation about Shunyata, Shunyata means interdependency. You see, once we study that, then the concept of ultimate reality, that Shunyata, becomes something reality. Otherwise, just word, emptiness like that, just word. So unless we study Nagarjuna's explanation, difficult to get real sort of the feeling of possibility of cessation. So therefore, the Mahayana teaching or Sanskrit tradition is very, very important. Then Tantrayana. The Tantrayana sort of what's the immense help to get the real understanding about the possibility of the cessation. Not only not only the afflicted emotion, destructive emotion, but also the bhaja.
Let imprints. imprints of delusions.
Imprints of these destructive emotion. Without understanding about the Tantrayana, very difficult to understand that. And then also, according Pali tradition, Buddha is just one historical figure. That's Buddha, only that Buddha. After he passed away, no, nothing. And early part of his life, ordinary human being. Then at Buddhagaya, he enlightened. That's according Pali tradition. Now, according Sanskrit tradition, the four kayas, Nirmana kaya, Sambhoga kaya, and Dhyana kaya, and the Dharma kaya, Dharmata kaya. Four kayas, or Buddha's body, or four Buddhas. So, just one ordinary human being, they eventually enlightened without proper teacher, by himself, and carrying some teaching. And his teaching's effect remain 1,000 years. Not easily, Kasoda, understandable, difficult. And then Nagarjuna also point out the same practice, the Arahata's practice and Buddha's practice, same practice, but big different result. That also illogical. There was a 37 practice for mindfulness, and then kareta chamashi yada bonshi.
The four mindfulnesses and for abandonments and for miraculous powers and for five strengths. Five strengths, five powers. 7 parts auxiliary to enlightenment. And 8 parts of Arya beings.
So these 37 sort of practice is the common. Mahayana and Hinayana, both is common. Through that practice, achieve Arahata. So the same practice, Buddha's case, through same practice become enlightenment, Buddhahood. That also not sort of Kasoda satisfactory explanation. The same path, but big different result. Why? Difficult. So therefore, unless you see unless we get some idea about 4 kayas, the type of Nirmana kaya, Buddha Shakyamuni, difficult to do Kasoda to get clear picture or convincing. So 4 kaya. In order to get deeper understanding about 4 kaya and the systematic how to produce that 4 kaya from this very subtle mind, everybody have that. Sometimes we describe as a Buddha nature or Buddha seed. From this subtle mind, eventually become 4 kaya. That systematic sort of procedure way, unless we study the Nagarjuna sort of writing about Guhisamaja Tantrayana, very difficult to develop convincing way. Conviction. So therefore, you see, these are the main reason the Mahayana teaching is because of the complete explanation about true truth. And then Tantriyana is the real method to develop for kaya from our subtle mind and energy. So like that. So therefore, that's our explanation. Is the Hinayana, Mahayana, Tantriyana. Of course, Tantriyana, Buddhist Tantriyana. I mean, there is Hindu Tantriyana also there. Even you see practice of the breathing and practice of certain yoga and also practice of Chandalini, Kundalini and through channels. These are common. So that's the introduction about Tibetan Buddhism. So in short, Tibetan Buddhism, as I mentioned this morning, introduced by Shantarakshita and follow-ups by Shugyara. Followed up by Kamalashila. So these two great masters, as a professor of Nalanda. Of course, Pema also immense help for establishment of Buddhism in Tibet. But in public teaching and sort of caring as a teacher, not much. But Shantarakshita, a great philosopher and monk, he gave ordination, Tibetan, and carry study, philosophy, logic, these things, and monastic systems, these established by Shantarakshita. So our tradition is pure Nalanda tradition. It is very true, like that. So as I mentioned this morning, the way our study is, firstly, we learn by heart or memorize these root texts. All these root texts wrote by these Nalanda master. Of course, among the commentary, Tibetan commentary also there, but mainly commentary wrote by those Nalanda masters, like that. So it is quite correct. Tibetan tradition is pure lineage of Nalanda tradition. So usually I explaining to my Indian friend, Indians are our guru. We are chela. Chela means student. Guru, you know, teacher. We are chela. So then, I also sometimes teaching them, we are not only just chela or student, but also reliable chela. Because, you know, the Guru's land, in Guru's land, see, recent centuries, as far as Buddhism is concerned, like the Nalanda institution, now completely disappear. And a lot of ups and downs has happened in Buddha Dharma, or the Indian Guru's teaching, Buddhist Guru's teaching. But during this period, we Tibetan faithfully kept these teaching intact. Intact. So that means we are quite reliable chela. So really, the Indians, relation between Indian and Tibetan, we have something very unique sort of relation between teacher and student, like that. So now, as the time comes, we return the precious ancient Indian thought, mainly is to come through Nalanda. We kept more than 1,000 years intact. Now rewrite, retranslation in Hindi, and sometimes composed in Sanskrit. So some are institution now, last few years, now already now doing these things, like that. Okay. So that's about the introduction of Tibetan Buddhism.